Oh, I didn't open it. Hi. How are you guys doing today? I'm just pulling up the Bible up because I realized I didn't have it, ready to go. I'm actually really liking. I found out that you can just use it like a regular website, and I'm really liking that over my phone. So, that's just gonna be the method I think I'm gonna play around with for now. Okay, I've found it. There we go. We're on day 101. Let's see. Yeah, the start of Kings. So we're starting, not the start of Kings, but the start of Second Kings. So we will be at the top of that, and really just getting to the crux of what's going on in the second half of Kings. I'm assuming that first half was not assuming. I watched the overview video, so the first half was all about the deeds of kings, and then the second half was more so about I think the exile that's caused because of these kings. Let me get some lighting correct in here. Yeah, I think that's better because it's super bright outside. So, yeah, we'll just do that. And in terms of Psalms, we go into Psalm 101, and then we can wrap it, and it will be a deal. Done. Set deal. We'll be good to go. Elijah confronts King Ahaziah. After King Ahab's death, the land of Moab rebelled against Israel. Yes. Okay. One day, Israel's king, Ahaziah, fell through the lattice work of an upper room at his palace in Samaria and was seriously injured. So he sent messengers to the temple of Baal-zebub. Is that like Beelzebub? Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether he would recover. But the angel of the Lord told Elijah, who was from Tishbe, "Go and confront the messengers of the king of Samaria and ask them, is there no God in Israel? Why are you going to Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether the king will recover? Now, therefore, this is what the Lord says to you. You will never leave the bed you are lying on. You will surely die." So Elijah went to deliver the message. When the messengers returned to the king, he asked them, "Why have you returned so soon?" I'm feeling distracted. This is a bit rude. Yeah, I won't do it. I don't know. We'll just put that to rest and be here in a moment because that's what I want to do. Lord, alright. Well, where are we? So, he sends this messenger. He sends the messengers back, and the king's like, "Why'd you respond? Why'd you return so soon?" And then at 2 Kings 1:6, they replied, "A man came up to us and told us to go back to the king and give him this message. This is what the Lord says. Is there no God in Israel? Why are you sending men to Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether you will recover? Therefore, because you have done this, you will never leave the bed you are lying on. You will surely die." What sort of man was he? The king demanded. What did he look like? They replied, he was a hairy man, and he wore a leather belt around his waist. Elijah from Tishbe, the king exclaimed. How does the king know from just that? He was a hairy man. Oh, there's a little tab here. He was wearing clothing made of hair. Those are two different things, but okay. So the hair really gave it away, I think. Then he sent an army commander with 50 soldiers to arrest him. They found him sitting on top of a hill. The captain said to him, "Man of God, the king has commanded you to come down with us." But Elijah replied to the captain, "If I am a man of God, let fire come down from heaven and destroy you and your 50 men. Then fire fell from heaven and killed them all. So the king sent another captain with 50 men. The captain said to him, "Man of God, the king demands that you come down at once." Elijah replied, "If I am a man of God, let fire come down from heaven and destroy you and your 50 men." And again the fire of God fell from heaven and killed them all. Once more the king sent a third captain with 50 men. But this time the captain went up to the hill and fell to his knees before Elijah. He pleaded with him, "O man of God, please spare my life and the lives of these your 50 servants. See how the fire from heaven came down and destroyed the first two groups, but now please spare my life." Okay, so he humbled himself, right? Then the angel of the Lord said to Elijah, "Go down with him and don't be afraid of him." So Elijah got up and went with him to the king. And Elijah said to the king, "This is what the Lord says. Why did you send messengers to Baal-zebub, the god of Ekron, to ask whether you will recover? Is there no God in Israel to answer your question? Therefore, because you have done this, you will never leave the bed you are lying on. You will surely die." So Ahaziah died, just as the Lord had promised through Elijah. Since Ahaziah, I feel like sometimes I stumble on this name and sometimes I don't, but every time I look at it, it looks weird. Ahaziah did not have a son to succeed him. His brother Joram became the next king. This took place in the second year of the reign of Jehoram, son of Jehoshaphat, king of Judah. The rest of the events of Ahaziah's reign and everything he did are recorded in the book of the history of the kings of Israel. 2 Kings 2. Elijah taken to heaven. When the Lord was about to take Elijah up to heaven in a whirlwind, Elijah and Elisha were traveling from Gilgal. After Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, for the Lord has told me to go to Bethel." But Elisha replied, "As surely as the Lord lives, and you yourself live, I will never leave you." So they went down together to Bethel. The group of prophets from Bethel came to Elisha and asked him, "Did you know that the Lord is going to take your master away from you today?" "Of course I know," Elisha replied, "but be quiet about it." Then Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, for the Lord has told me to go to Jericho." But Elisha replied again, "As surely as the Lord lives, and you yourself live, I will never leave you." So they went on together to Jericho. Then the group of prophets from Jericho came to Elijah and asked him, "Did you know the Lord is going to take your master away from you today?" "Of course I know," Elisha answered, "but be quiet about it." Then Elijah said to Elisha, "Stay here, for the Lord told me to go to the Jordan River." But again Elisha replied, "As surely as the Lord lives and you yourself live, I will never leave you." So they went on together. 50 men from the group of prophets also went and watched from a distance as Elijah and Elisha stopped beside the Jordan River. Then Elijah folded his cloak together and struck the water with it. He folded it together and struck the water with it, his cloak, okay? The river divided, and the two of them went across on dry ground. Y'all be trying to make like the Red Sea seem like the only time the Lord was splitting water for people. Over and over again, the Lord is out here splitting rivers, splitting waters, and letting people walk by on dry earth. How wide is the Jordan River? Okay, alright. Then where we at? 9. When they came to the other side, Elijah said to Elisha, "Tell me what I can do for you before I am taken away." And Elisha replied, "Please let me inherit a double share of your spirit and become your successor." "You have asked a difficult thing," Elijah replied. "If you see me when I am taking away from you, then you will get your request. But if not, then you won't." As they were walking along and talking, suddenly a chariot of fire appeared, drawn by horses of fire. It drove between the two men, separating them, and Elijah was carried by a whirlwind into heaven. Elisha saw it and cried out, my father, I see the chariots and the charioteers of Israel." And as they disappeared from sight, Elijah tore his clothes in distress. Elisha picked up Elijah's cloak, and which had fallen when he was taken. Then Elisha returned to the bank of the Jordan River. He struck the water with Elijah's cloak and cried out, "Where is the Lord, the God of Elijah?" Then the river divided, and Elisha went across. When the group of prophets from Jericho saw from a distance what happened, they exclaimed, "Elijah's spirit rests upon Elisha." And they went to meet him and bowed to the ground before him. "Sir," they said, "just say the word, and 50 of our strongest men will search the wilderness for your master. But the Spirit of the Lord has left him on some mountain. Search for your master. Perhaps the Spirit of the Lord has left him on some mountain or in some valley." "No," Elisha said, "don't send them." But they kept urging him until they shamed him into agreeing, and he finally said, "All right, send them." So 50 men searched for 3 days, but did not find Elijah. Elisha was still at Jericho when they returned. "Didn't I tell you not to go?" he asked. So pretty much they kept pestering him. All right, just go. Go. And then they spent 3 days doing all of this because they felt like it and found nothing. And they came back and they were like, "Didn't I tell you not to go? Didn't I tell you? I told you. So why are you out here? You're out here wasting your time." Yes. It's cool that Elijah didn't die. He was taken away, carried away, body and all, into heaven. I think that's amazing. That's like top tier honors right there. He gets swept away by a whirlwind. Let me do it on the one where he's actually swept up by the chariot. Won't be mine. Elijah was carried into heaven by a whirlwind. Let's note that. person in there at all. Why would you put that person there too? I just want. Okay, sometimes you're cumbersome, but other times you're really great. Okay, as they that one. No. Elijah's first miracles. One day, the leaders of the town of Jericho visited Elisha. "We have a problem, my lord," they told him. "This town is located in pleasant surroundings, as you can see, but the water is bad and the land is unproductive." Elisha said, "Bring me a new bowl with salt in it." So they brought it to him. Then he went out to the spring and supplied the town with water and drew the salt into it. And he said, "This is what the Lord says. I have purified this water. It will no longer cause death or infertility." So he brought him a bowl of salt, and then he went to the spring that supplied the town, and he threw the salt in it, and he said, "This is what the Lord says. I have purified this water. It will no longer cause death or infertility." So when we're called to be the salt of the earth, are we called to essentially purify the spaces that we're in? Is that like the correlation there? That's not it. That's not what I'm looking for. Okay. That one's more of a question. A thought. Invoking question. Okay, so he does this, and he's like, he throws the salt into the spring from the new bowl that they brought him, the new bowl and salt, and then he throws it into the spring that supplies the town, and he's like, "This is what the Lord says, I've purified this water, it will no longer cause death or infertility," and the water has remained pure ever since, just as Elisha said. Elisha left Jericho and went up to Bethel. As he as he walked along the road, a group of boys from the town began mocking and making fun of him. "Go away, Baldy," they chanted. "Go away, Baldy." Elisha turned around and looked at them, and he cursed them in the name of the Lord. Then 2 bears came out of the wood and mauled 42 of them. From there, Elisha went to Mount Carmel and finally returned to Samaria. I'm not really sure how I feel about the second half of that statement, because, like, kids just... A group of boys. There's a large group. Okay, never mind. Like, cause there was a couple kids, you know, doing what kids do. You know, saying "go away, Baldy, go away, Baldy" doesn't really seem that harsh of an offense for them to be mauled. But if these bears only mauled 42 of them, it means that there was more of them present, which means that this is a group, like a gang, a squad, lots of people. And I guess that disrespects. Alright, well. Alright, that falls under one of his miracles. He curses the boys and they get mauled by bears. 2 Kings 3. War between Israel and Moab. Ahab's son Joram. Ahab's son Joram began to rule over Israel in the 18th year of King Jehoshaphat's reign in Judah. He reigned in Samaria 12 years. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight, but not to the same extent as his father and mother. He at least tore down the sacred pillar of Baal from that his father had set up. Nevertheless, he continued in the sins of Jeroboam, son of Nebat. He had committed and led the people of Israel to commit. King Mesha of Moab was a sheep breeder. He used to pay the king of Israel an annual tribute of 100,000 lambs and the wool of 100,000 rams. But after Ahab's death, the king of Moab rebelled against the king of Israel. So King Joram promptly mustered the army of Israel and marched from Samaria. On the way, he sent this message to King Jehoshaphat of Judah. "The king of Moab has rebelled against me. Will you join me in battle against him?" And Jehoshaphat replied, "Why, of course. You and I are as one. My troops are your troops, and my horses are your horses." Then Jehoshaphat asked, "What route will you take?" "We will attack from the wilderness of Edom," Joram replied. The king of Edom and his troops joined them, and all 3 armies traveled along a roundabout route through the wilderness for 7 days, but there was no water for the men or their animals. "What should we do?" the king of Israel cried out. "The Lord has brought the 3 of us here to let the king of Moab defeat us." But King Jehoshaphat of Judah asked, "Is there no prophet of the Lord with us? If there is, we can ask the Lord what to do through him." One of King Joram's officers replied, "Elisha, son of Shaphat, Elisha, son of Shaphat, is here. He used to be Elijah's personal assistant." In the Hebrew, it says he used to pour water on the hands of Elijah. Jehoshaphat said, Yes, the Lord speaks through him. So the king of Israel, King Josaphat of Judah, and the king of Edom went to consult with Elijah. Elijah, why are you coming to me? Why are you coming to me? Elijah asked the king of Israel. Yes. Why are you coming to me? Elijah asked the king of Israel. Go to the pagan prophets of your father and mother. But King Joram of Israel said, No, for it was the Lord who called us 3 kings here, only to be defeated by the king of Moab. I don't like this guy. Elijah replied, As surely as the Lord Almighty lives, whom I serve, I wouldn't even bother with you, except for my respect for King Josaphat of Judah. Now bring me someone who can play the harp. While the harp was being played, the power of the Lord came upon Elisha, and he said, This is what the Lord says. This dry valley will be filled with pools of water. You will see neither wind nor rain, said the Lord, but this valley will be filled with water. You will have plenty for yourselves and your cattle and other animals, but this is only a simple thing for the Lord, for he will make you victorious over the army of Moab. You will conquer the best of their towns, even the fortified ones. You will cut down all their good trees, stop up all their springs, and ruin all their good land with stones. The next day, at about the time when the morning sacrifice was offered, water suddenly appeared. It was flowing from the direction of Edom, and soon there was water everywhere. Meanwhile, when the people of Moab heard about the 3 armies marching against them, they mobilized every man who was old enough to strap on a sword, and they stationed themselves along their border. But when they got up the next morning, the sun was shining across the water, making it appear red to the Moabites like blood. It's blood, the Moabites exclaimed. The 3 armies must have attacked and killed each other. Let's go, men of Moab, and collect the plunder. Oop. There's what you get for making assumptions. But when the Moabites arrived at the Israelite camp, the army of Israel rushed out and attacked them until they turned and ran away. The army of Israel chased them into the land of Moab, destroying everything as they went. They destroyed the towns, covered their good land with stones, stopped up all the springs, cut down all the good trees. Finally, only Kir Hareseth and its stone walls were left, but men with slings surrounded and attacked it. When the king of Moab saw that he was losing the battle, he led 700 of his swordsmen in a desperate attempt to break through the enemy lines near the king of Edom, but they failed. When the king of Moab took his oldest son, who would have been the next king, and sacrificed him as a burnt offering on the wall. It's not where he expected that sentence to go. So the king of Moab takes the crown prince and he sacrifices him on the wall. So there was a great anger against Israel, and the Israelites withdrew and returned to their own land. What do you mean there was a great anger against Israel? Or, so Israel's anger was great. The meaning of the Hebrew is uncertain. I don't understand. Okay, so the meaning of this is uncertain. So you take the more ambiguous statement instead? Like, it makes more sense that the Israelites' anger was burning fiercely because they watched this king sacrifice his prince. Like, as far as Israel's decline has gone, there is yet to be a child sacrifice. I mean, Except for the people who built the walls of Jericho and put up the gates. You know, that was the curse that fell upon them. Whatever. I think they could have used the better version of the translation, which is so Israel's anger was great. I'm going to compare this. Nope, that's not what I want to do. No, stop. That's also good to know I can do that though. I do prefer to read on here, but making the notes sometimes it gets really glitchy. One more time. Thank you. Oh, there is no comparison here. Okay, wait. I think it lets me do there's something it lets me do. Like a side by side. I can't tell. Alright, well then moving on. We're in Psalms 101. A Psalm of David. It's been a while. I will sing of your love and justice, Lord. I will praise you with songs. I will be careful to live a blameless life. When will you come to help me? I will lead a life of integrity in my own home. I will refuse to look at anything vile and vulgar. I hate all who deal crookedly. I have nothing to do with them. I will reject perverse ideas and stay away from every evil. I will not tolerate people who slander their neighbors. I will not endure conceit and pride. I will search for faithful people to be my companions. Only those who are above reproach will be allowed to serve me. I will not allow deceivers to serve in my house, and liars will not stay in my presence. My daily task will be to ferret out the wicked and free the city of the Lord from their grip. I feel like that would have hit harder if I didn't know what I know about David now. You know what I mean? The conviction of all of that would have hit just harder if I didn't read through the extent of his flaws and his deathbed talk. So it didn't have that same impact. But I do believe that at some point in his life, especially when he penned that, he was a man who wrote those words with conviction. So even knowing the flaws, there was a point in his life where he upheld those things with the utmost. He upheld those things with the utmost faith in his promise to those words, his connection to that poem. You know? So, And it does say that, aside for the issue with Bathsheba and Uriah. Yeah. He was pretty diligent in servicing and pleasing the Lord. So, yeah. Is there anything I need to say? no prayers come to mind, and I don't really have any major takeaways. Other than what I said, like, it's cool that he was able to be carried off to heaven, you know. So it didn't say Elijah died, he was carried off to heaven. That to me is an immense honor, an immense testament to how he lived his life. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna rate that. Elijah being carried off to heaven. And that is all. I will see y'all tomorrow. Bye bye.